Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to Nooga Radio. NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Keon Rose. Welcome to Keon Rose. You got me for 2 hours today. Brace yourselves. There's a lot of football. There's a lot of college hoops. There's a lot of record breaking. We're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to talk about the Mocs. I've got an interesting question about the Mocs. And I need an answer. I'm in a desperate spot here. I need an answer, and I don't know who's going to be able to answer this for me, because the Mocs have been winning games, right? But not a string of games. It's not been consistency. There's a win, there's a loss, there's a win, loss, it's a win, there's a loss. And what I want to know is, can the Mocs pull together a winning streak? Because that is their next step. Now, they did start the season with struggles. They did not win consecutive games until about 4 games into the season. And what I want to know is, all right, let's see. All right, maybe you have a call? Calling on the air?
Yes, the Mocs, they are going to turn around and have a winning season.
Okay. But do you think that they can put together a string of games? Can they win multiple games in a row?
Maybe 3 or 4 at a time.
I mean, since November 20th, they haven't won 2 at a time.
I know, but it's season's early, and once they get into the SoCon schedule and everything, I think it's going to help propel them to get to winning those 3 or 4 at a time, and then they'll have the occasional buzzsaw.
Oh, I don't think you know what you're talking about. I don't think they're going. I think they just got lucky.
No, I think the only one that gets lucky is you. But anyway, the Mocs, I think, will turn around, and once they get into the conference schedule there after the first of the year, we'll start to see them really gel together a lot more. I mean, they've got 3 or 4 outstanding players that have really turned a lot of heads, and they're doing a lot of scoring. They're banging the boards hard and making a difference. They've lost some of those games by 3 to 5 points on average. So, I mean, that's why I think that the Mocs will be a much better team, and I think as they head towards the conference tournament schedule later on in the end of February into March, I think that they will have their act together and actually be a player against the other SoCon teams.
I mean, I hope you're right. I'm not rooting against the Mocs here. I'm just asking a question, because what I saw against Georgia State, right? They played Georgia State. They got drop kicked 71-48, and weren't in the game at all, right? Now they did, like you said, lose a bunch of games by a margin of 3, 4, 5 points, but that game is a game that just really got punched in the mouth. And it's not like Georgia State is some big time program.
They aren't.
So what I'm looking for, I guess, is for some reason to believe, as they do start this conference schedule, the next game is actually going to be Saturday, December 30th against Samford, at Samford. Is there any reason to believe that they're going to be able to pull off a string of games in a row? Because I haven't seen anything this season that would suggest that they'd be capable of doing that.
I don't know. Samford's pretty good. I don't know if they're going to be able to handle Samford.
Inside the Southern Conference, Samford is pretty good. But
yeah, but I think UTC, even though they are the youngest team in the NCAA, these 4 or 5 young men that are seeing the bulk of the playing time, have really started to come together, and they know that they have been picked as underdogs, because of being as young as they are. They're actually making, quite a bit of a wave. I mean, it's just, they're going to run into a buzzsaw and stuff, and I think, this year, if they have a good school year on the hardwood, look out here in the next couple of years, because if Foreman, Dixon, and these others that, have been getting the minutes and stuff, they will be a formidable team to take on in the SoCon.
Look, I do agree in the next few years, absolutely, this Mocs team is a team to look out for. They're very young. they do rely on a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores. And like this to me is a team that I like their potential. I like their upside.
But Dixon's a choker. You have to admit, he's chokes.
I wouldn't say that. No, I don't believe that that's something that I know. But I will say this: when you look forward to this basketball team, I think that this is a team that could return to the NCAA tournament in the next couple of years. Here, I mean, you're 2 years removed from a tournament appearance where, even though you were the underdog in the first round, a lot of people expected the Mocs to win that game. And I think if you want to imagine a situation where these guys can get back there, this is a foundation that I think is nice. I like them, but I'm talking about this year, just with how young they are and the lack of experience in a Southern Conference that is very experienced. There's a lot of experience on Stanford and ETSU and Western Carolina and the Citadel. When you look at all those other teams inside of the conference, I find it difficult to believe that the Mocs are going to be able to tear off a big chunk of games here. I do.
Well, I mean, you look at UTC, I mean, as far as the football program, they surprised Stanford, and they also beat ETSU. So why couldn't they do that in basketball as well?
I mean, they also lost. They only won 3 games in the football season also. I mean,
I know.
For me, it's like you've got these new coaches in here. We've got to give them some time. And what I want to know is, is a 4 or 5 game winning streak, is that too high an expectation for a basketball team that's this young? I think it might be.
Well, I think it's going to take them some time, but I think that they will get on a spurt where they will have, 3 to 5 game stretch, where they're winning their games. Because, you mentioned a few teams in the SoCon, that are formidable opponents and stuff, but, the bulk of the SoCon, isn't that great. I mean, we're maybe at the bottom of the heap and everything, but, we're going to be playing more of a spoiler than we are anything else in this 2017-2018 season. So, give UTC a little bit of time. Yeah, we're going to have some growing pains and stuff, but for the most part, I think that, we're like a phoenix on the rise, and the Mocs are going to get back up into the prominence of being a team that's going to be reckoned with on a regular basis because of this gelling chemistry that the Mocs have on the hardwood.
But I hope you're right, man. I mean, I don't want it to come across like I'm rooting against the Mocs. I'm a realist, and I just want to give a realistic view of this because I'm not trying to be a full-on homer.
Right. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, and Keon, I hope you had a great Christmas.
I did. How about you, man?
Not bad. On the road and everything, so I appreciate you filling in here tonight.
Absolutely. No problem.
We'll be back tomorrow.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the illustrious, decorated Sam Jordan, who usually has this spot calling in to give his opinion on the Mocs here. Because and he's more optimistic than I am on this. I find it very hard to believe, just from what I've seen from this football team, or from this basketball team rather, this year, that there's going to be a winning streak around the corner. I haven't seen it yet, and I mean, when you play a conference schedule, like those games are tough to win, and they're tough to win because of the level of familiarity. You're playing a bunch of teams that you're going to play a couple of times in the season. They know you. You know them, they know your arena, you know their arena, and those games wind up being tough because of the level of familiarity there. And I don't know that if you are going to be one of the least experienced teams in the conference, if you are going to necessarily have the advantage or have the leg up on the competition, and is it reasonable to expect you to be able to rip off a chunk of games? I do believe that the Mocs are going to be a very good basketball team in the future, that this is a team that as they start to get experience, and you've already seen it, right? Like this is to me, a different basketball team than the one that started the year. But as they get that experience and get that playing time underneath them, and just to see different game time situations and come out sometimes on top, sometimes you lose them, and figure out how to be a winner, I think this is a team that could really, really be solid in the future. But in terms of this season, this year, I think it's going to be tough. Now, maybe I'm just being too pessimistic, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'd rather be too pessimistic on stuff like this rather than too optimistic and wind up being entirely disappointed. But that's my sports experience. I root for Washington teams. You're listening to Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM, on your Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com. And I want to shift gears here over to the NFL because the NFL decided that because they didn't have to compete with the world of college football, what they were going to do is take over the entire sporting weekend, which I guess you can do that if you're the NFL. They just decided, hey, you know what, it's going to be fun. What if we were on Saturday and Sunday and Monday? Right? NFL's not usually on Christmas, but they were like, oh, look, a Monday night day coincided with Christmas. Let's see if we can fight the NBA on this one. So a lot of things, now that last week was the second to last week of the NFL season, a lot of things becoming very, very clear in this playoff picture. My youngest brother, Cade, is visiting me for the holidays. He's visiting me, and he's a gigantic NFL fan. I tend to be in the mix of all sports. So my youngest brother here, Cade, he is an NFL guy through and through. So let's start with where it's important here, because we saw the Titans last week struggle to keep their playoff hopes alive. And actually, we're going to go watch the Titans this Sunday. And we're going to see them play in a game that is meaningless for them, but maybe they can mess some things up for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, Kate, what went wrong for the Titans? Maybe on two levels. Last week, and then for their season.
Well, I guess I would say, like, last week specifically, when they played the Rams, it ended up being a pretty good game. It came down to the end, but it's been a problem that the Titans have had for most of the season, really, and it's that they just don't really have a very good offensive thing going. Like, their defense, I'd say, was more active than it's been in a lot of games and scored them some points and kept them in play with a Rams team that, by scoring 4 touchdowns, I would say was about as good as they always are. But they weren't able to do much of anything offensively when they needed to get down the field to attempt to score at the end. It was a lot more of the same. And just in the end, they ended up, I believe, throwing an interception and losing that game. And then in the longer run, I question the staffing.
Which is to question Mike Mularkey is really what it is. That's really what it boils down to. It's to question Mike Mularkey and his decision making and this offense that doesn't seem to be able to compete with anybody in the league until, hey, let's let Marcus Mariota run this hurry-up offense at the end of games. And then suddenly we see a team come alive and have some potential moving the football up the field that we don't ever see during the games.
Yeah, like, they have this young, accurate, mobile guy in Marcus Mariota, and it just using him in this very, I guess, run-first sort of style when their biggest talent isn't really a running back.
It's weird. It isn't. And they've gotten, I think, more out of DeMarco Murray than could be reasonably expected. And Derrick Henry has done a pretty decent job for them. But here's the issue, too, is I think those guys are talented running backs. But when you know that a team is going to run the ball, unless you have one of those transcendent backs, right? We're talking the way that Alvin Kamara has been playing. We're talking about the way that Devontae Freeman played a year ago. We're talking about Adrian Peterson-esque guys that they're running the football. The way that Todd Gurley's been playing this season.
Yeah.
They're running the football, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Unless you have that guy running the football on every down is not the way to go in a modern NFL. And Mike Mularkey is playing football like he's a caveman. He's coaching football like he's a caveman. And I have huge problems with this.
Yeah, it's a strategy that's worked for so few people. Like, even last year, when they gave Todd Gurley just run the ball into a stacked box every play, and it made it look like he had fallen off or something. And then as soon as they were able to make a better overall offensive scheme that allowed them to have a passing game as well, like, he's running so well he might be, as far as the running back position, first place in MVP consideration.
I mean, you have to think so, which, by the way, just adding on to the list of problems that the Titans had in that last game was too much Todd Gurley. The LA struggled, I thought, early in that game to really find any rhythm passing the ball. There were two huge Todd Gurley screen passes that just went, I believe, either went for touchdowns or went for massive yardage. Like just too much Gurley, and there's not really a solution to that. But you can look at the Rams to me, and I like to look at the Rams a lot because I think the Rams are a reasonable explanation for what is happening to the Titans. When you look at the Rams a year ago, and Jared Goff looked worthless, and Todd Gurley didn't look like he was any good, and a lot of that had to do with Jeff Fisher, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Jeff Fisher is not particularly overly concerned with his offenses being successful or with his offenses being particularly productive. He's more of a defensive guy. In Mike Mularkey, you see a lot of the same thing. You see a guy who's not necessarily overly concerned with scoring lots of points. He's okay with winning the time of possession battle and winning by 4 points. And I don't think in the modern NFL, when you have the league being a quarterback-driven league the way that it is, that's not a viable strategy. It's just not.
No, and like he really, if he could, he'd keep doing it. And I think they're gonna have to like lose and fail in the short term for there to be any improvement in the long term, which does seem plausible because the Jaguars do intend to play their starters next week.
And they're mad. The Jaguars are playing their starters next week, and they're mad because, of course, they didn't necessarily get the opportunity to destroy the 49ers the way they thought they were. Jimmy Garoppolo comes up huge in that game. And by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo's getting a lot of credit for winning that game, and I think rightly so on some levels. But also, Blake Bortles gave the ball a billion times. But Blake Bortles kept throwing interceptions in a way that was at a rate that didn't seem sustainable, and he kept doing it. Amazing.
It was really impressive, and I saw like an article that was like Blake Bortles finally reprised his role.
Like it's been a long year for Bortles. We've been talking about him, and he looked surprisingly good this year. And you want to go, all right, maybe he's turning the corner. But nobody really wanted to come out and put their name on it because nobody wants to be the person that pounds the table for Blake Bortles, and then Blake Bortles does Blake Bortles things. And that's exactly what happened. He did Blake Bortles things. And even though I thought their defense played amazingly well, but they couldn't get off the field. No.
Even more unfortunately, the person who pounded the table for Blake Bortles, it seems, was Blake Bortles, who perhaps talked a bit of smack to Jadeveon Clowney, who previously, after the Jaguars beat the Texans by quite a margin, after that, went out and was like, Blake Bortles is trash.
I mean, if you look at Blake Bortles' body of work, it is more trash to not trash there to compare to. So yeah, you got a Jaguars team that's going to look at the Titans and think to themselves, here is someone whose clock we are entirely going to clean. Because I think that the Jaguars want to be that second seed in the AFC. I think they want the first round bye. You're a defensive team. I think that helps you more to have the first week off. You're going to be playing a lot of physical football and have a little bit of rest before you have to play anybody. I think that's very important if you're Jacksonville. So yeah, Jacksonville coming into Nashville to take on the Titans. And I mean, if you're the Titans, you've got to think that the 49ers laid out a wonderful blueprint for how to attack the Jags, which is, it's not an easy thing to do, but you've got to keep pushing them. You've got to keep pushing the ball down the field and keeping them on their toes and giving them different looks. And we know the Titans are not doing this.
No, but like the Titans want to like grind them out in like this close game, but really they need to put the Jaguars in a situation where just running the ball on them is not the best option, and they have to depend a lot on Blake Bortles, which I would not do.
Well, no one rightly would. Even the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Marrone, wouldn't really do it. He would give the ball to Leonard Fournette every time if he could. He just can't, realistically. But yeah, no, I just think that this is one of those situations where the Titans actually have the personnel to provide some kind of challenge and maybe to spoil some things for Jacksonville. I just don't think and don't trust Mike Mularkey enough to do it. We're going to be talking some more NFL here in a little bit. We're going to shift further down south. We're going to go to Atlanta. We're going to be talking about the Falcons. The Falcons lost to the Saints this past week. Their playoff hopes are still very, very much alive. So me and David will be discussing that when we return. Plus, we're going to look at the larger NFL playoff picture. Next, let's look at those here on all of New Radio, NewRadio.com, 927.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left 2 people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace, then spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital, where she's expected to recover. Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least one person was injured. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. This is Chattanooga Radio News now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now. The Chattanooga Mocs used his deepest weapon to capture the first road win of the Lamont Paris era. The squad nailed 12 triples in the 70-67 triumph at Jackson State. Mikhail Foreman tied his career high of 18 points. Matt Dixon added 19, while James Lewis Jr. chipped in 15 points and 9 rebounds. The Chattanooga Mocs now go to a 6-6 record, while their opponent Jacksonville State goes to 9-4. Squad returns home Saturday to wrap up the non-conference slate with a visit from Georgia State. Game times 1 p.m. And the first 150 kids gets a Santa hat. University of Tennessee Chattanooga senior Ariana Gilbert topped the 20-point mark for the second straight game, but it wouldn't be enough as the Lady Moc fell 59-49 to Princeton Thursday afternoon in the final of the Gator Holiday Classic hosted by the University of Florida. Chattanooga, the Lady Mocs are now 8-5 overall, while the Tigers improved to 9-3. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Oh man, rush. I've got to get stuff for the party. Where can I go that's going to give me the wide selection of beer, wines, and spirits? Oh, I got it. I'll go to Harry's Wine and Spirits, Signal Mountain. Maybe East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd. I could go to Riley's Wines and Spirits in Lake City. Wow, look at the huge selection in here. These great prices, amazing. Oh yeah, I'm going to find something for my lady too. I'm going to make this party a success. Make your party a success when you stop in at Harry's Wine and Spirits in Signal Mountain, East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd, and Riley's Wine and Spirits in Hickson. The automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room game and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga. If your computer is running slow, if you have viruses, if someone called you asking to get into your computer, just say no. If a screen pops up on your computer saying your data is going to be deleted, then you have to call this number. Don't call it. You need to call Affordable Computers. You wouldn't invite a stranger to come into your house to look at all your books and records. So why would you invite someone to look at your records on your computer? With one wrong click of the mouse, you could be allowing access into your entire system. At Affordable Computers, we can stop them now. Don't be fooled by scammers and pop-ups that tell you you must call this number or your hard drive's going to be deleted. You need to call Affordable Computers. Call Affordable Computers now. Microsoft is never going to call you. Microsoft is never going to ask you to call them. If you see that on your screen, you are being scammed. Stop and call Affordable Computers. 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975. In Fort Oglethorpe, call 706-858-5888. That's 706-858-5888. Affordable Computers.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at Noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to All New Nooga Radio 92.7 FM here on Nooganomics.com. Thank you for joining me today. A small part of the day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. We are looking into the playoff picture in the NFL. A lot of teams that you know that you like are involved. Maybe. Like Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons, which just a year ago, the Super Bowl hype around the Atlanta Falcons was insane, right? But we believed that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. They looked like the team that could go to the Super Bowl and even win it, and they were about a half a football away from doing just that. They completely collapsed in the Super Bowl and haven't looked like the same team since, really. Now, part of that is they lost Kyle Shanahan as their offensive coordinator. Steve Sarkisian has been doing well, but he hasn't had this offense looking as dominant as it has a year ago. And it looks actually like the Falcons are much closer to being in tune with his offense than they were previously. And I think the other thing to note about this, too, is just the amount of injuries that this team has suffered throughout the year. And for them to still have a chance to make the playoffs in the NFC South, which has been absolutely brutal when you look at the way that the Panthers have been playing and the way that the Saints have been playing, I actually commend the Falcons a lot for even being in this position, right? Because a lot of teams do curl up into that field position and wind up suffering the dreaded Super Bowl hangover, which outside of the Madden curse is the biggest thing that everyone is afraid of, which, by the way, Tom Brady's absolutely defied the Madden curse. So when I look at the Falcons and the fact that they weren't able to beat the Saints, which doesn't surprise me, they're not better than the Saints. I picked them to beat the Saints because I thought they had enough firepower there, but they didn't get going early enough in that game to have a chance. If you fall behind against Drew Brees, the way that Drew Brees has been playing this year, you're not going to win, and you're not going to have a chance to win. The Saints get you in the rearview mirror, and you just kind of stay there. So when I look at Atlanta, Atlanta's got a chance to win and to make it into the playoffs, but they've got to win next week against the Carolina Panthers, who survived against Tampa Bay. By the way, there was a fumble call at the end of that game with the Panthers involving Jameis Winston, where Jameis Winston believed that he did fumble the ball, but then he recovered it, and the officials gave it to the Panthers. I watched that play again. I don't know how it is that you give that ball to the Panthers. Jameis Winston absolutely recovered that football. And Jameis Winston was so certain of the fact that he recovered that football. He lost his mind. Okay, did you see this?
No, actually didn't get to see it.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to show it to you later. Jameis Winston lost his head. He started yelling at officials. His teammates had to hold him back. Jameis Winston, they pulled the ball to the sideline, and then the moment that the official made the call on the field, Jameis Winston ripped off his helmet and started running toward the official again. Jameis Winston lost it. Absolutely right. He looked like a complete crazy person. But I understand why. He recovered that football. He clearly had the football. When they pulled everybody, the thing that they do, the football's underneath a pile of guys, and they pull everybody off the pile. Jameis stands up with the ball. And even in the replay, Jameis was the one that fell on it. And yeah, they went ahead and gave it to the Panthers. Game over. Bucs don't even have a chance to really make a comeback on that one. Jameis Winston lost his head. So the Panthers sneak away with one. So they have a chance to win the division with a win next week and the Saints loss, which does impact seeding. And so it's a big game for them to play Atlanta next week. So I imagine both teams will be playing their starters. We're going to get a good game out of that. I do think the NFL's done a really good job with backloading that schedule so that we get a lot of these divisional matchups that are really, really intriguing. But what are your thoughts on Atlanta's year? Because I know we talked about it a little bit off air. And what do you think about Atlanta making the playoffs? Do they have the kind of team that could make a run?
I think so, just because the whole NFC, it's a very loaded conference. I could go maybe 2 past the 6 teams that currently hold a playoff spot and find a team that could be a playoff team if it weren't for the fact that there were so many of them. But I think the Atlanta Falcons, they've had their whole struggle. They haven't really ever been bad. They just haven't been as good or as dominant in a year where the whole conference and specifically their division seemed to take a step forward while they took a step backwards. So, I would never say that they're not so good that you can just see them in a matchup and count them out. But just if I had to pick a team, it probably wouldn't be them. So whereas Carolina has also been kind of inconsistent, they've both made games that really shouldn't have been as close as they were against the Buccaneers. But I still, just seeing it, I would probably choose Carolina, and I don't think I would choose Atlanta over New Orleans and LA and Minnesota in the playoffs, but I think it's unfair to count them out already.
Yeah, and to be fair to Atlanta, they do now have that playoff experience, which counts for something. I don't think the playoff experience counts for more than talent. So if you're not the more talented team, I don't think that I should chalk up your experience as you having an advantage. But I will say that if you do end up in a close game against a more talented team, you've got a shot at winning that game. And I will say this last year in the Super Bowl is probably the best example of this. That the Patriots were the more experienced team, even though I thought Atlanta was much more talented. When we started the first half, the talent was winning out, and the experience came back and wound up making a difference in the game. I'm not one of those guys that says, well, they're experienced, so they're obviously going to win this one. I think that you still have to have that talent. I think Atlanta is trailing in the talent department of all of these NFC playoff hopefuls. But like you said, I don't think you count out a team that's been to the Super Bowl. They've already shown they can do that. And you root for the Ravens, so you know this. There are teams that just sort of middle their way to the playoffs, and then something clicks when they make it there, and they find another gear. We've seen it happen to the Giants in years past. We've seen it happen to the Ravens in years past. We just sort of all but back into the playoffs and then find themselves in the Super Bowl. So you can never count anything out. But realistically, they are, if they were to make the playoffs, they'd be one of the least talented teams in the playoffs, as of just the way that they were playing this year. We haven't seen the best year from Julio Jones. We've seen a regression in Matt Ryan. We've seen a regression in Devontae Freeman. They backed up the truck there, gave him a brand new contract, and haven't seen the production this year from him that they've seen last year. Their other backs, Tevin Coleman, haven't seen the production from him. So you've got a lot of these things that are concerning if you're the Falcons, because these guys are the cornerstones of the franchise, and they all seem to take it a step backwards instead of forwards. So there's that. Now, this is not necessarily a playoff story, but you were telling me about Landon Collins ripping Eli Apple, calling him a cancer. Give us that story. That's the most fascinating thing that's happening in the NFL to me.
Yeah, so the Giants, they've had a really bad year, in a year where they were projected because of last year to have a really good year, and like it's all sort of fallen apart for them, and especially like the secondary has had like their defense as a whole really has been questioned, and people have been like, are they quitting? Which is like one of the biggest indictments you can really have of a professional player. Basically, it also, like, in an interview with Landon Collins, he named Rogers Cromartie and Jenkins. He said, I love those two guys. They play hard. And then, but that first pick, referring to Eli Apple, who in last year's draft, he was a top 10 pick, quote, he's a cancer.
Wow. Which is funny, because that's something that's we in the media like to try and figure out who's the locker room cancer. Very rarely does a player tell us who the cancer is. That's so wild to me. And I know that, like, you've got a locker room that things are not working, and when you're losing, that makes it worse. But it always does. But man, how much do you have to hate a guy to go to the media and just say, that guy is cancer. That guy, what's wrong with our locker room is him. everything that's wrong with our locker room. No, I can single this down to exactly one guy. Him, Eli Apple. It's him. I don't know if we've ever gotten an answer this distinct before. And it's funny because the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to hear a multitude of voices in the greater sports community, at least in the NFL community, saying, you can't do that. You can't call out a guy to the media. You can't do that. And I'm like, look, man, you can't have it both ways. You can't complain that people don't say interesting things on one hand, and on the other hand, when a guy says something that's absolutely fascinating, and it is absolutely fascinating, you can't say that guy shouldn't say that. But it's like, okay, either the players keep everything to themselves and say nothing interesting, or they say interesting things, which sometimes includes throwing your teammates underneath the bus.
Yeah, this whole thing that we're in now, where we're drowning every week in cliches. I feel like we can only blame ourselves. But we whine on both sides of the fence, on both sides. So yeah, that Landon Collins, Eli Apple situation, that is amazing. And also, we know Landon Collins to be a guy that's particularly candid. Landon Collins played at the University of Alabama, and Landon Collins' mom wanted him to go play at LSU, and he signed with the Crimson Tide. And it's great because the look on her face, she was so mad at him. She was so mad at him, and he was just like, Mom, I want to win a title. And so, yeah, no, like, Landon Collins doesn't have any problems going up against conventional wisdom. This is a man that went up against his own mother on national television. So, yeah, no, I don't think Landon Collins is going to back away from just out and out telling us the truth. Boy, but the Giants are a complete dumpster fire on that front. So, let's see. We're going to take a look at some of these games that happened over the weekend, because we watched the Steelers game where, for the longest time, it actually looked like the Steelers were going to lock up that second spot in the AFC, and instead, a bunch of things happened that we did not expect. Who ended up losing that made that completely necessary for the Steelers to win next week? So something happened here, right? So the Steelers needed to win, and they won their game against the Texans, obviously. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they needed a little bit of help from Baltimore won. They need a little bit of help from. Nope. This is horrible radio now. I feel horribly unprepared for what it is that I'm about to say. I have a great point, and I just completely nullified it by just not having the information they need to have. So let's awkwardly shift over to the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Sam Jordan's Cowboys. I'm not gloating. I'm gloating a little bit, but I'm not really, really gloating. But man,
the return of Ezekiel Elliott for Dallas did not go anywhere near what they thought that was going to go. And that game was crazy. That game was absolutely crazy. They had the drama. We had the Dez Bryant soap opera return to our lives. That was a wonderful thing that happened. They followed him on the camera. There was a storm brewing, and boy, I don't know if anybody is better than was that game on CBS or Fox?
I believe it was CBS.
Yeah, okay. I don't think anybody is better than CBS. Maybe NBC Football Night in America than finding immediately where the story is, and we just pick on that story all game. But they found Dez Bryant being very disgruntled early in that game. I mean, like the first quarter, Dez Bryant was already pouting.
Yeah.
He's a full pout.
He was like trying to like go onto the field like every other player or something to like try and play, and they like have to call him back off. And he was like getting mad on the sideline on the bench. It was crazy.
I mean, the Dez Bryant storyline of that day was wonderful because the Cowboys were basically the more dominant football team in that game. They seemed to be winning the game on both offense and defense. They were winning the battle in the trenches, as the cliche goes. They seemed to be winning about every aspect of that game. And then the Dez Bryant saga starts to unfold. And one of the parts of the Dez Bryant saga that's the greatest is that Dez Bryant is unhappy with the amount of touches, looks, targets that he's getting in that game, the amount of plays that they're actually having him in. And Dez Bryant finally gets the ball, right? He gets the ball passed to him. He's going for a first down. And the Seahawks just punch the ball out of his hand. So it's a fumble immediately. Like the first time he touches the ball that game in an impactful way, he fumbles it instantly. And the game is pretty much downhill from Dallas there. I mean, and you can't blame Ezekiel Elliott, right? Like Ezekiel Elliott came in, he was doing that thing where he gets about 5 to 6 yards to carry every time you give him the ball.
Yeah, he was largely unstopped in the way that you would expect him to be, where it's like they give him the ball and you expect him to progress so that they can get a first down, and he does.
I mean, you can't blame Dallas's defense. The defense had held Seattle to 28 yards of total offense at the half. 28 yards. And they lost 21-12. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen anything look quite like that, but the Cowboys couldn't stop turning it over.
No.
And the Dez Bryant turnover was like the first of many, like really just set the tone, gave Seattle an easy touchdown. And the Seahawks missing, quite frankly, the Legion of Boom. I made a joke the other day that they were the Legion of Boom. They were still kind of scary, but they weren't hitting you hard.
Yeah, it was a notable difference.
Yeah,
like,
that was maybe softer defense than what
of all the names that you know from the Legion of Boom. There were maybe like 2 people there who were even healthy enough to hope to play.
Yeah, I mean, what we had? We had Earl Thomas, and we had one half of Bobby Wagner.
Yeah,
we didn't like Bobby Wagner's torso is what we had.
Who could like hobble last week to the point where they're like, he really should not have been playing, and then he was just out there.
But okay, how much drugs do you think Bobby Wagner had to be taking to make it possible for him to walk? Because last week we were talking about a guy. They said last week he couldn't move laterally, which I don't know if you've ever watched football defensively. That's the game. The game is moved laterally. And he couldn't move laterally. And all of a sudden this week, Bobby Wagner's back out there playing football, making tackles. How much drugs do you think Bobby Wagner's taking?
I have no idea. I don't know like how much that takes, what kind. It does not surprise me that he would have taken them, considering that like his own teammates were like concerned and being like he shouldn't have played, and he got mad at them for saying that.
That has to be a horse tranquilizer situation, because there's no way that's a couple of Tylenol. If you can't move laterally one day, and 7 days later you can, they drugged you. Now, obviously, I'm speculating, and I'm wildly speculating, and I get this. I'm simply stating what I believe to be a medical fact, which is, okay, so I pulled my groin one time. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life, and someone poked me in my eye and I almost lost my eye. So, like, and the groin was worse than that. And I couldn't move in any direction without tremendous pain. And I did take the Tylenol and the aspirin. And they helped a little bit. A little bit. A little bit. 7 days later, I was still in bed. Right? Which is like one reason why I know I can't play football. Like, I just know that I don't have the pain tolerance for that game. But 7 days later, I was still in bed because of a muscle that I pulled. 7 days later, Bobby Wagner was out there playing a professional football game and tackling Ezekiel Elliott and moving laterally. You don't go from not being able to move sideways to full-on running on a football field without some kind of trust. That's all I'm saying. I'm just tossing that speculation, that speculation out there. So I got to watch Dallas's season fall apart. I got to watch the Giants completely implode against the Cardinals, which was also great. So we've got that going on. So no, we're going to talk a little bit more NFL. We've got a couple more takes on this, and another thing that's going to happen here is we're going to start to sprinkle a little bit more basketball back into this world, a little bit of NBA and some college hoops, because the Christmas game I think is a good time to start watching the NBA again. The season is so long, there is a chunk of it that you just have to ignore. And I say this as a fan of hockey and basketball and baseball, that if the seasons are just going to be this long, I watch too many sports. I cannot follow the whole season. I can't, and especially during football season, college football, like I just don't have the time. So this is a nice time to like really start up with basketball again. I want to talk about some bowl game matchups because we're starting to get to the bowl games where there are teams that I recognize, that I can name players from some of the teams that are playing bowl games now. We talked about Florida Atlantic last week. Like, I can name anybody in Florida Atlantic. I know that's all I know. So you're listening to Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least one person was injured. A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left two people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace, then spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital where she's expected to recover. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. Also subscribe to the radio news now.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
And Jordan, News Time 92.7 Sports Now. The Chattanooga Mocs used his deepest weapon to capture the first road win of the Lamont Paris era. The squad nailed 12 triples in the 70-67 triumph at Jackson State. Mikhail Foreman tied his career high of 18 points. Matt Dixon added 19, while James Lewis Jr. chipped in 15 points and 9 rebounds. The Chattanooga Mocs now go to a 6-6 record, while their opponent Jacksonville State goes to 9-4. Squad returns home Saturday to wrap up the non-conference slate with a visit from Georgia State. Game time's 1 p.m. And the first 150 kids gets a Santa hat. University of Tennessee Chattanooga senior Ariana Gilbert topped the 20-point mark for the second straight day, but it wouldn't be enough as the Lady Moc fell 59-49 to Princeton Thursday afternoon in the final of the Gator Holiday Classic hosted by the University of Florida. Chattanooga Lady Mocs are now 8-5 overall, while the Tigers improved to 9-3. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now.
We expect here partly cloudy skies continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now according to Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north of cold highs. Still around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks. Locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Rainbow Road, East Ridge. And I'm Sean Hannity, Chief Meteorology at your core.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
Listening to all new radio, newradio.com, 927 FM. WPLZ
HD4 Ottawa, 224AZ Chattanooga,
92.7 Digital FM 95.3 HD4 Chattanooga.
Record snowfall along the Lake Erie shoreline.
There's been the snowiest 2 days in the state of Pennsylvania.
Record profits this holiday season.
This has really been a crackerjack Christmas for retailers and for consumers.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Bill Rakoff.
This is a historical snow for this area.
Old Man Winter and Mother Nature combining for a 1-2 punch along the Lake Erie shoreline, the bullseye in northwestern Pennsylvania.
We did break a statewide record for a 2-day snowfall of 54.5 inches, and we're adding on to that throughout the nighttime, no doubt about that. So it has been the snowiest 2 days in the state of Pennsylvania, right here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
That's John Stalin, the weather director at WSEE-TV. Erie Deputy Police Chief Aaron Wansel says his city is used to snowstorms, but not like this.
I drove around town a little bit today. Most of the banks did not open today in the city. A lot of the restaurants didn't open.
Meanwhile, across much of the Northeast, Midwest, and Northwest, snow and cold temperatures remain in the forecast. These folks braving the chilly weather in Wisconsin, where wind chills hit 40 below.
It's too cold. I'm not a fan. Freezing. You live with it. What else can you do but live with it? It bites, yeah, in the face. That's why I grow a beard.
Thousands of shoppers hit the stores and online outlets today, helping to cap off one of the biggest holiday seasons in recent years. Some are returning gifts.
I bought the same gifts for my husband that my daughter bought.
Others are looking for deals.
We have gift cards to like Sephora, and we always go to Bath and Body Works because they always have their semi-annual sale.
Early estimates show holiday shoppers spent $598 billion. That number is expected to rise by the end of the year. Greg Johnson of Customer Growth Partners.
This has really been a crackerjack Christmas for retailers and for consumers. New record set almost on all counts. The best overall sales growth since before the recession, and a new record in total sales, which we anticipate will reach $671 billion.
The average price of existing homes is up from this time last year, according to the latest Standard & Poor's CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. The S&P's David Blitzer.
For the year ended in October, prices were up 6.2%, which is about 3 times faster than the rate of inflation.
Some places did better than others.
Among the leading cities were Seattle, Las Vegas, and San Diego. And across all 20 cities that we follow, home prices are up over the last 12 months.
Stocks finished lower online trading today. The Dow was off 7 points. The NASDAQ closed down 23, and the S&P down nearly 3 points. Now this.
CBS News Radio, honored with the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence. Original reporting right here on CBS News Radio.
Peekaboo. Peekaboo, smile. Smile, buddy. Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy. You know how boys are.
Or maybe he's teething. Oh, poor baby. I think his gums hurt.
Maybe he's just tired.
Or maybe his tummy hurts. He didn't eat that much.
Maybe he's not ticklish.
You think maybe he's scared of the dog?
Maybe he'll outgrow it. Maybe it's a phase. Maybe he just doesn't like smiling.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs or see a doctor today for an autism screening. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better. And it can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Congress is off till January, but they've got plenty to do, as CBS's Chip Reed reports.
The government will go into a partial shutdown around January 19th or 20th if they can't get Democrats and Republicans to agree on a big spending bill. They did a 1-month fix, but they've got to do that, and that's probably priority number one. Number two is infrastructure. The president and the Democrats and Republicans in Congress have been talking about this for a long time.
The Russians blaming the U.S. for tensions on the Korean Peninsula, and they made that point during a phone call with the Secretary of State. Here's CBS's Cami McCormick.
The Russians say their foreign minister told Rex Tillerson that Washington's aggressive rhetoric has heightened tensions on the Korean Peninsula. The phone call came as the U.S. sanctioned 2 senior North Korean officials who are considered leaders of Pyongyang's ballistic missile program. A statement from the Treasury Department also said the action was part of the U.S. plan to isolate.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least one person was injured. A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left 2 people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace and spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital, where she is expected to recover. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. Russell Stroud, Radio News, now.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now. The Chattanooga Mocs used its deepest weapon to capture the first road win of the Lamont Paris era. The squad nailed 12 triples in the 70-67 triumph at Jackson State. Mikhail Foreman tied his career high of 18 points. Matt Dixon added 19, while James Lewis Jr. chipped in 15 points and 9 rebounds. The Chattanooga Mocs now go to a 6-6 record, while their opponent in Jacksonville State goes to 9-4. Squad returns home Saturday to wrap up the non-conference slate with a visit from Georgia State. Game time's 1 p.m. And the first 150 kids gets a Santa hat. University of Tennessee Chattanooga senior Ariana Gilbert topped the 20-point mark for the second straight game, but it wouldn't be enough as the Lady Moc fell 59-49 to Princeton Thursday afternoon in the final of the Gator Holiday Classic hosted by the University of Florida. Chattanooga Lady Mocs are now 8-5 overall, while the Tigers improved to 9-3. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Sports Now.
We expect clear to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now cool to Wednesday. Look for some sunshine with a breeze out the north, though. Like cold highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland fireworks. Locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixieland fireworks just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Sean King, Chief Meteorology at your core.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
You're listening
listening to all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. Plus with Keon Rose is the show. I'm Keon Rose, joined by my brother, Dave Rose, who is wonderfully knowledgeable. Let me finish first. Wonderfully knowledgeable about the NFL. And thus helping to make the show go by just a little bit more easily. Because there's a lot of NFL stuff to cover. I think I'd be hard-pressed to try and cover it all by myself. And so I do have a question about the NFL playoffs, because we're trying to get through a lot of this stuff and try and break down what the playoff picture is going to look like. Not necessarily make playoff predictions just yet. We do have one more week of NFL football to go. And in the NFL, or in the NFC specifically, things have not entirely shaken out over there, right? Like, you still have some movement going on in the AFC, but a lot of that is seeding and who's getting a bye week and all of that stuff. In the NFC, we legitimately have to figure out who is in the playoffs. You know, we didn't lose some teams in the hunt last week. We lost the Lions after they disappointingly lost to the Bengals for no good reason. We, I guess, officially lost the Packers. We lost. What's the losing the NFC?
Cowboys.
We lost the Cowboys. There it is. We lost the Cowboys. And so, yeah, we clarified a bunch of things. But there's still a lot of things up for debate. Will the Falcons make the playoffs? If the Falcons make the playoffs, first off, you'll have to acknowledge that the NFC South is the best division in football right now. And I thought it might be. At the beginning of the year, I thought the NFC South had the potential to be the best division in football. I actually thought the AFC South had that potential as well, but a few things happened. One, the Buccaneers were terrible in a way that I did not anticipate. They were awful in a way that could not be expected, even after their Hard Knocks appearance. The Falcons stumbled a lot, but not the Falcons. The Titans stumbled a lot, but then just Mike Mularkey really is what happened to that team. The Colts incompetently mismanaged the recovery of Andrew Luck and now do not have Andrew Luck. And we'll see if they have Andrew Luck next year. That's not even a given, right? Like, they may have ruined the career of Andrew Luck in a way that I could not have expected. And then, of course, the Texans had Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson looked like one of the bright spots in the NFL before he gets injured in practice with a non-contact injury, which seems to happen all the time in the NFL. And I believe Tannehill also got injured in the AFC with a non-contact injury in the AFC East with the Dolphins. So, yeah, but I thought the AFC South had the potential to be one of those better divisions in football, and instead, only the Jaguars as the pinnacle of football. Like, who? That's not even a sentence I thought I would say ever.
Yeah, no one, I don't think, was really thinking the Jaguars are going to be the team, just because I guess I couldn't have foreseen how big of a difference, or first of all, I couldn't have foreseen how far the defense had come to be like the top defense in the NFL, and then how big a difference having Leonard Fournette would make, and the combination of those two taking so much pressure off of Blake Bortles that he could perform at a career high level and bring them into the third seed comfortably, really, in the AFC.
That's pretty wild. I would never have imagined. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing some field work this upcoming Sunday. Me and Kate going out to the field. We're going to be watching the game. We're going to be in Nissan Stadium in Nashville, watching the Jaguars, watching the Tennessee Titans play football, and see if the Titans can spoil some things with the Jags here. As the Jags try and see if they can get to be the second seed in the AFC and see if they can earn that bye week. The Titans, that's what the Titans are playing for right now. They're playing spoiler, and they're talented enough to be doing much more than that, which is disappointing.
I guess in a sense, like, they're playing to keep themselves alive, because they've got right now the 6th seed in the AFC.
Oh, they have it still?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
They're tied with the Chargers and Buffalo, but at this exact moment, they're still ahead, I think, just because probably the Chargers lost a lot of games in their division, more, I guess, than the Titans, and the Bills lost horrifically to the Chargers, so they have that tiebreaker. So if they can manage to win this, then they'll be fine and they'll take the 6th seed. But if they don't, then they have to depend on the Chargers to lose to the Raiders and the Bills to lose to the Dolphins.
So they need help.
Yes, most likely.
They need help, but if they win, they can get in. All right, big game for the Titans. We're going out to the field. We do this for you. You know it's not going to be warm on Sunday. I'm already planning my jacket situation. I'm going to be out there. Couldn't get press credentials to go to the game. I had to buy the ticket. So we're going to be up in the nosebleeds. I'm going to try to watch this game. And we're going to take some pictures for you guys and see what we can do. See what we can do. Get Nooga Radio in the playoff hunt. So there it is. See what we do for you. You see what we're doing for you right now?
It's going to be so cold on New
Oh, man. It's going to be absolutely cold. It's going to be frigid. So anyway. So we got all of that stuff coming up. We're going to be in the field covering NFL action for you. Freezing our toes off. For little to no pay. We're going to freeze our toes off in Nashville. I'm sort of bracing myself for this, but I also hope it's one of those days that just randomly gets warm in the winter. That happens here sometimes. Because I really don't want to be in the cold. Oh, man, you have no idea how much I hate the cold. I'm going to have to get, foot warmer socks. There's got to be something there. So, yeah, so we have we have that story for you. There is another, what was the other NFL story? Oh, yeah. So I got a random NFL, or not even NFL fact for you, but just a random fact. So, did you know that the largest group of selfie takers in America are actually middle-aged men? Men in their 40s and up. Here's the thing. You would think it was 16-year-old girls. That's the stereotype. The 16-year-old girls don't do anything but text and take pictures of themselves and post it on Instagram. People who take the most selfies in America, men in their 40s. Men in their 40s. So,
presumably all from the bottom.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and verify that. I actually don't know the answer to that. All I know is I read the stat. But here's some 40-year-old selfies for you. James Harrison takes a selfie with Tom Brady as he joins the Patriots. Which, wow! The Steelers released James Harrison a week ago. And James Harrison has already found a new team and has already gotten himself into the playoffs again.
I mean, of course it's the Patriots, really. That's the most Patriots thing to do. And he's going to have a revitalized career. However many years he's got left, they're all going to New England, absurdly.
Right. And I don't even think the Patriots brought him in to look at him and go, yeah, let's see what we can get out of James Harrison. I think the Patriots brought in James Harrison because they might play the Steelers. What information about the Steelers and their defense can we extract from James Harrison? But that almost seems like you talk about a thing that just blew up in their face. That blew up in the Steelers' face. James Harrison is going to sing like a canary.
Yep.
he's going to spill the beans on everything. I don't think this is going to work out the way the Pittsburgh wanted it to at all. I don't think that James Harrison is going to be doing that much damage to them on the field. I think James Harrison is going to spill the beans on their whole defense.
It's pretty telling that the two teams that everyone was like, these teams are interested in James Harrison. Patriots, Ravens.
Yeah, it's the two teams with the biggest accident. The Ravens would love to have had James Harrison.
Yes.
We just love to have had him. So yeah, Tom Brady and James Harrison take the selfie together. James Harrison's taking the selfie. Of course, it looks like a typical 40-year-old man selfie, where they both are not even looking at the camera. And James Harrison's like, oh, I got a teammate older than me. All right, James. All right.
I mean, maybe that's the thing to be proud of at that age.
Maybe. Listen, this is exactly why all of your kids ran away from Facebook. Why you can't find your kids on Facebook is because you're there.
Oh, it went straight to Facebook and nowhere else.
That's what happened. I can tell you this to you as a fact. My parents, my mom joined Facebook. Everybody from my church joined Facebook. I left Facebook. I'm on Twitter now. Right? And when they make the migration over to Twitter, you leave Twitter. Right? All the kids on Instagram and on Snapchat because all the parents went to Facebook. And it's like when you turn on the light and if your apartment has roaches, and I've lived in an apartment with roaches, when you turn on the light and all the roaches scatter, that's what it is. The parents show up on social media and the kids scatter. They don't want anything to do with the same bit of social media that their parents are using. So yeah, that's where we are on that. The whole Facebook thing. James Harrison and Tom Brady giving you a full-on demonstration as to why it is that you're telling your kids, why won't you poke me on Facebook? Why won't you poke me back? Because they're gone. Because they're gone. Because you showed up. You showed up taking a selfie that looks like James Harrison and Tom Brady selfie.
I feel like James Harrison, just like his kids, he's still trying to do like that thing that Facebook had where it was like you threw the food at people. And it was so random. And like you open your Facebook page and it's like, oh, a pie hits your screen and it slides down. It's like,
I must have missed that.
Got you.
Oh, that's wild. And also, wow. How nerdy do you have to be to come up with that idea? I believe that Mark Zuckerberg literally thought that was a great idea. I think he thought that was a fantastic idea. Wow. That is so useless as a means of communicating and connecting with everyone you know. How entirely worthless is throwing food at people virtually? What? That's the wildest thing I've ever heard about. How did I miss that? Because there's like a stretch of 2 minutes there. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, it's brutal to see this whole thing happen with adults of a certain age as a whole, but I really love the idea.
You get a pie thrown at you by your aunt.
I love the idea of like the uncle or the father who is doing these things to you is James Harrison.
you know that James Harrison would do that. James Harrison is exactly the guy that would do that. Right? Like James Harrison is the guy that looks scary, but really isn't. Right? Like deep down inside, like he's just a nice person. He just has that look on his face. And he's hitting you with the virtual pie on Facebook and chuckling to himself at home. Because he did something useful that day.
Like he crushes like the Sean Kaiser, and then he comes home and he's like, kids, you gotta help me out. I need some help in Farmville too. And they're just like, oh
no. His kids just well, this is a man that took away participation trophies from his children because he needed them to know that they needed to actually go out there and win. Like, in my whole life, because people talk about how much millennials receive participation trophies. First off, I only ever received one participation trophy in my whole life. And the participation trophy is the crappiest trophy. You don't feel good about this trophy that you've got. Like, where's this idea that you feel good about it? You don't feel good about a participation trophy. You know it's a participation trophy. Like, you know they're just patronizing you. You're aware. You're aware. I promise. Like, everybody's a winner. No. The people over there with the big trophy, with the real trophy that's not made out of plastic, they're the winner. You just got this thing because you were there.
Yeah, I've never actually seen a person like flaunt their trophy that's like, at least you tried.
Which look, that's very much like real life. Like, you get paid when you go to work because you go to work. But the person driving the nice car and has the bigger paycheck, they're the one that's actually winning. Yep. This is Clutch with Keon Rose here on Nuka Radio, NukaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. We got sidetracked a little bit. I'm just saying that James Harrison is an old man. Oh, man. James Harrison looked like an old man in that picture, and because he took the picture next to Tom Brady, he made Tom Brady look like an old man, too. And we talked about how much Tom Brady has not necessarily aged, but, man, Tom Brady could not have looked more like a dad than in that picture with James Harrison. How do you manage to do that? So another storyline that we've been following is the Cleveland Browns, because the Cleveland Browns have an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done since, the 2009 Detroit Lions? 2008 Detroit Lions, in which the Detroit Lions did a wonderful thing in which they ran the tables in reverse, which is they lost every game on their schedule, and they ended their season 0-16. The Cleveland Browns avoided it last year by one game, and I've been trying to pick games for the Browns that I think, look, you can maybe win this game. I thought last week that was the game that the Browns had a chance to win. I thought if the Browns go into that game against the Bears and they're focused, the Bears have a rookie quarterback too, go ahead and hit DeShone Kizer against Mitchell. Don't call me Mitch Trubisky. And give him a chance to win this game. And what ended up happening was that the Browns got stomped out 20-3. It wasn't close. It didn't look like they were ever in that game. Their offense never, ever got moving. I mean, never. Just completely inert from the word go. And now, next week, they're playing the Steelers, and the Steelers are trying to maintain that second spot because the Steelers want that first round bye. And they're going to beat the holy hell out of the Browns next week, and the Browns are going to run the tables in reverse.
Yeah, I really thought that last week against the Bears was like their biggest chance left as well. And what people still understand is myself and Keon, we have like two screens that we watch football games on, a big screen and a small screen. We devoted the big screen, which is the one that we play the sound of, to the 0-14 Bears, and we watched, or the 0-14 Browns, and we watched that game from start to finish.
I just sat there in disbelief. It's like, well, it's no wonder this football team can't win football games. It's the first full Browns game I've watched this year. And it's no wonder they can't win games. They're awful. They're awful all over. Like, you could pick a thing. They're bad there. But, I mean, look, I like Sean Kizer. I actually think that guy can be really good. But he is rough. And he made some bad decisions in that game. That pretty much, I think, cost them at least an opportunity to be in the ball game. He threw an interception that just, he made up his mind. He was going to throw the ball deep and threw it directly to a safety for the Bears. I don't know his name, but he threw it directly to the guy.
The commentators, I think, accurately described that game as like a microcosm of what made this team what it is now. Because it's just like there were bad mistakes like that shouldn't have happened. And then there'd be like a good thing, like they had a pick six that then got taken back because one of their players was offside, who never even affected the play. He was just offside, and that canceled out a touchdown that they would have gotten. And then the Bears got the ball back, and they scored a touchdown on that drive. And then later on, Browns are actually driving. I think the only time in that game that they were, and the dude fumbles the ball at the 2-yard line, and the Bears get it back in the end zone.
Look, I don't know what it's like to be a Cleveland sports fan, but if it looks like that, maybe don't. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. At least y'all have LeBron. At least the city of Cleveland has LeBron James. Because if you didn't have LeBron James, I don't know what on earth you would do with yourselves. You got LeBron James, and the Indians are good. The Indians are good.
This is true.
Maybe just watch baseball and basketball for the next 10 years. Because I'm looking at it and I'm going, I don't see the upside on this. And I'm one of those guys, I thought, boy, the Browns will be probably much improved this year. When you go down the list of things that they have drafted and acquired in an attempt to get better. But I thought the coaching was terrible from Hugh Jackson. But granted, here's the thing. You almost throw yourself off as a coach when the things that you do right don't work. Then you end up not really having a point of reference for even what works at all. And so, yeah, I feel really bad for Hugh Jackson. I feel bad for DeShone Kizer. I feel bad for that whole team. I feel bad for that whole city. I don't know what you do there. And, it's not like the Steelers are going to let you off the hook next week because they need to win. They need to win. And now I understand that the Steelers just barely escaped the last time that you played them. You really think it's going to go down twice?
No.
So what's the deal there?
That's the inevitable game that they could have won against a good team that they don't win because the Browns. They're just certain hallmarks that they seem to hit every year. Recently, anyways. So it's just the good team you almost beat but didn't beat. The several mediocre teams you almost beat but didn't beat. The bad team that you beat yourselves on, and then everybody else. And it just sort of fades together.
Right. It's problematic is what it is. So, yeah, there is a connection, by the way, to the state of Tennessee and the Cleveland Browns, which is that Jimmy Haslam owns the team. The Haslam family more or less runs the state of Tennessee. I feel fairly confident to say that Bill Haslam is the governor. So, there's that. All the pilot gas stations, they own those. And there's a bunch of those around here. So, yeah, I feel fairly confident in saying that that's a pretty strong connection we're very much connected in this state to the Cleveland Browns, whether we like it or not. And I think that I have a theory of trickle down ownership, which is if your ownership is bad, then your team will be bad. And there are lots of rumors about how poorly Jimmy Haslam runs the Browns. And I would tend to believe it because you see it with the Redskins, and you see it with a lot of these other teams, with the Bears, with the Chicago Bulls, with the Giants. A lot of these teams really have bad ownership, and the team is bad. Surprise, surprise. Listening to fucking Keon Roaster on the radio, weekday.com, 1970.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news. Now.
A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left 2 people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace, then spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital where she's expected to recover. Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least 1 person was injured. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. Let's subscribe to the radio news now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Sam Jordan, News Time 92.7 Sports Now. The Chattanooga Mocs used their steepest weapon to capture the first road win of the Lamont Paris era. The squad nailed 12 triples in the 70-67 triumph at Jackson State. Mikhail Fortman tied his career high of 18 points. Nat Dixon added 19, while James Lewis Jr. chipped in 15 points and 9 rebounds. The Chattanooga Mocs now go to a 6-6 record, while their opponent in Jacksonville still goes to 9-4. Squad returns home Saturday to wrap up the non-conference slate with a visit from Georgia State. Game time's 1 p.m. And the first 150 kids gets a Santa hat. University of Tennessee Chattanooga senior Ariana Gilbert topped the 20-point mark for the second straight game, but it wouldn't be enough as the Lady Moc fell 59-49 to Princeton Thursday afternoon in the final of the Gator Holiday Classic hosted by the University of Florida. Chattanooga Lady Mocs are now 8-5 overall, while the Tigers improved to 9-3. Sam Jordan, News Time 92.7 Sports Now.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Oh man, rush. I've got to get stuff for the party. Where can I go that's going to give me a wide selection of beer, wines, and spirits? Oh, I got it. I'll go to Harry's Wine and Spirits, Signal Mountain. Maybe East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd. I could go to Riley's Wines and Spirits in Nixon. Wow, look at the huge selection in here. Look at these great prices at Middleton. Oh yeah, I'm going to find something for my lady too. I'm going to make this party a success. Make your party a success when you stop in at Harry's Wine and Spirits in Signal Mountain, East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd, and Riley's Wine and Spirits in Hickson. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room game and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga. If your computer's running slow, if you have viruses, if someone called you asking to get into your computer, just say no. If a screen pops up on your computer saying your data is going to be deleted and you have to call this number, don't call it. You need to call Affordable Computers. You wouldn't invite a stranger to come into your house to look at all your books and records. So why would you invite someone to look at your records on your computer? With one wrong click of the mouse, you could be allowing access into your entire system. At Affordable Computers, we can stop them now. Don't be fooled by scammers and pop-ups that tell you must call this number or your hard drive is going to be deleted. You need to call Affordable Computers. Call Affordable Computers now. Microsoft is never going to call you. Microsoft is never going to ask you to call them. If you see that on your screen, you are being scammed. Stop and call Affordable Computers, 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975. In Fort Overthrow, call 706-858-5888. That's 706-858-5888. Affordable Computers.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at Noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Shout out Nooga Radio.
You're listening to all new Nooga Radio. NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Make sure to check us out on social media. Because chances are you're old enough to be on Facebook. YouTube, and on Twitter. We are on the place where you went to, and we are on the place where your kids ran to when you went to Facebook. So both. See, someone's gonna get mad at me, but I'm 27. I'm just telling you the truth. You want to know what happened, why your kids don't respond to you on Facebook? It's because they ran away. They're no longer there. Might post occasionally, but they're not reading your stuff. Just tell the truth, man. The unpopular truth. So anyway, we were talking NFL today because we had a lot of NFL stuff over the weekend. The playoff picture is becoming clearer and clearer as we take a look into that crystal ball and see the way that things are shaping out. And one of the things that we've been able to see as of this past Monday night was the way that the Eagles would look with Nick Foles at the helm for a full game. And the answer is they're okay. They're okay. Nick Foles is not bad, but he's not Carson Wentz. But Carson Wentz is an animal. Nick Foles is a normal guy. And I think the Eagles are talented enough to still be scary with Nick Foles at the helm. But they're not even close to being the same football team that they were. They really did struggle with the Raiders at a lot of points in that game. Okay. Do we still like the Eagles? Do we still think that the Eagles are scary enough, powerful enough to really make a push? Or is this a situation where just because of a major injury that it all fell apart?
I think, unfortunately, for the Eagles, they might be this year's Raiders.
Right, which like a year ago, the Raiders go ahead. They have an awesome season. Derek Carr really showing out last year. Derek Carr making that connection with Amari Cooper, his number one receiver, and then he gets injured near the end of the season, and that's it. You go to the playoffs, and you don't look anything close. Now, I will say this with the Eagles. I will say the situation with Nick Foles is a better situation than... Absolutely better than what I think was Matt McGloin. Yeah, Matt McGloin, who was a rookie Matt McGloin. Of all things. I didn't know Matt McGloin got drafted, much less... If you told me that man was 40, I would have been like, yeah, it's Matt McGloin. Okay, yeah, Matt McGloin. How long's he been in the league? His ninth season, Matt McGloin? I mean, you could have told me anything about Matt McGloin, I would have believed you. Oh, Matt McGloin's left-handed? Word. Yeah, okay, cool. Now, Matt McGloin played at the University of Loyola Marymount? Yeah. Okay, yeah. You could have told me anything about that guy to believe you. No one anticipated the existence of Matt McGloin, and he has eternal credit, by the way. Matt McGloin played a whole lot better than I thought he would. He still just played badly because he's a rookie that just got thrown to the wolves. And somehow, Bill O'Brien, was it the Texans that they played? Yes. Yeah, Bill O'Brien was able to get a victory over the Raiders to the point where now you have to look at it and go, yeah, Bill O'Brien Bill O'Brien has been fortunate. Bill O'Brien has been more fortunate than a lot of coaches, and also more unfortunate than a lot of coaches. Bill O'Brien has never had a quarterback he could actually ever rely on, but he's played some teams with quarterbacks that could not be relied on either. And so, yeah, like Bill O'Brien is just praying that Deshaun Watson comes back and returns to form next year. Because I don't know, what more excuses, what more reasons could you have other than I just don't have quarterbacks. Like, I just don't have quarterbacks. What else can you say at that point? So, yeah, Bill O'Brien, more victories in his short time with the Texans than Marvin Lewis in the 15 years that he was coaching the Bengals.
Hilariously, many times, like most of those Texans victories that you've seen in the playoffs in the last maybe like 6 years have been over the Bengals.
Right. It's a little crazy. Now, the thing too, I always talk about Marvin Lewis for a little bit because I do think that they're doing him a little dirty over there. But I will say this about Marvin Lewis because he's a good coach. Who do you replace him with? Like, people are talking about this like there's an obvious answer. And I also say this in sports all the time because people act like things can't get worse in sports. And you go, well, we always make the playoffs. We never win in the playoffs. Or we're just outside of the playoffs. And you think that is as bad as things can get. You're stuck in football limbo. And it can get worse. And we always forget that limbo is the place that's in between hell and heaven. If you don't hire the guy that's going to take you to heaven, you're probably hiring the guy that's going to take you to hell. And I don't know who the Bengals are going to hire after Marvin Lewis. But Marvin Lewis is a guy, one of the rare guys who's been able to have full operational powers of a football team and not run it into the ground. And most guys don't get to do that. And not even football, like just across every sport. You watch Doc Rivers dismantle the Los Angeles Clippers and just lose control of that team. We're even seeing in Atlanta with the Hawks, and Coach Bud showed up and coached a team to the #1 seed in the NBA Eastern Conference, and then never again. And each year they've gotten progressively worse. And now, are the Hawks going to make the playoffs in an Eastern Conference that should be makeable?
Yeah, I think like the Knicks are holding the 8th spot right
now. Right, correct. So how do you feel about that? So that's all I'm saying is like the guy that has full control of personnel decisions and head coaching, that almost never works out. And Marvin Lewis has been able to do all of those things and still competently coach a football team to make it to the playoffs fairly often. And I don't know, for me, I'm of that belief that like you just have to believe that at some point, if you keep having you just keep playing the odds, probability says you're going to win one eventually. Yes, I know it's been 15 years, but listen, as a Redskins fan, I can tell you there are things that are worse than going to the playoffs and losing in the first round all the time. Like not seeing the playoffs, like being the laughingstock at the bottom of your division, and you don't think that you can get worse than the Browns. I promise you, you can if you hire the wrong guy. And so I don't have a problem with you firing a head coach or removing a head coach and then moving on to the next guy. But you better have a very strong idea who that next guy is and a very good idea as to what that next guy's plan is going to be. So you can go ahead and execute that as quickly as possible. You're going to be moving from football limbo to football hell. And that's not a place that anybody likes. Just ask Cleveland. Listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. We got a little bit off kilter, but yeah, the Eagles are in that similar position to where the Raiders were a year ago. They're not as bad off because I think Nick Foles is better than Matt McGloin.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and we've mentioned this throughout the show, and we've been mentioning this for days, the NFC is rough. It's a rough place. Like, this is not a place to lose your starting quarterback when you look at all the scary teams that are there. First off, there's a high probability that the entire NFC South is there. And what is it that the NFC South does? The NFC South scores points, man. Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Drew Brees. They score. That is what that division does. Then you look at the Vikings. That's a team that's tough to score on when you've got your starter. You don't have your starter. You've got Nick Foles. And I believe Carson Wentz might have been able to overcome the Vikings. I don't believe that Nick Foles can.
Yeah, I would also say, like, probably even the same situation with, like, the Rams as well, where it was, like, because Carson Wentz, he was able to overcome them. And then at the end, like Nick Foles was able to like continue like making some first downs and was able to end the game. But I don't know, in that game where I think the Rams scored like 35 points, I don't know if that's the kind of production that you've got from Nick Foles. Like, because he just based on really how he played against the Raiders, like the Raiders, they were there. They were in that game for most of it. And I'd say a lot of their own flaws sort of took them down in that game as opposed to like the Eagles.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And that game to me highlights how much I just don't trust Nick Foles to carry this football team. Like maybe he can, maybe he can do it, but I just don't. I don't believe in him like that. So yeah, so we've got one more football story, and then we're going to try and see if we can quickly get to this NFL stuff. But the football story, I almost forgot, but I remembered. Your Ravens win. They're in. Do they do it?
I think so, because they're facing the Bengals. Who, yeah. The Bengals have been in a very bad downward trend of late. I mean, they just beat the Lions, but I can't explain. The Lions, right.
I mean, the Lions could lose to you and 10 friends next week and then beat the Patriots. I mean, who knows what the Lions do? I mean, they're the most roller coaster team in the entire league. No one can predict that football team at all. Can't.
It feels like they're just set up to be right there and then plummet.
All the time. It's like it's their design. So yeah, like that. The Lions losing to the Bengals doesn't tell you anything about the Bengals at all. Really, it tells you more that you can't trust the Lions. Really, which we knew already. So yeah, I think the Ravens beat the Bengals too. It's one of those things that is getting to be. It's one of those things that's pretty crazy, but I do expect it as well.
I think they've lost to the Texans, the Colts, the Redskins, the Chiefs, the Packers. None of these are particularly good teams.
No, you just named a bunch of bad football teams. They lost to a bunch of bad football teams. Yeah. So the Bengals are not beating the Ravens, I don't think either. So I guess that answers that question. That's the shortest answer we've had today. So let's shift gears here. Clutch with Keon Rose here on 92.7 FM, all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. We're talking a little bit of NBA here coming up to the end of the show because the NBA had their full slate of games on Christmas Day. It's become a tradition. I think that they're very good at that presentation. I enjoy very much watching them play on Christmas, and they get a lot of really good matchups, a lot of heated matchups. You know, they've got Cavs Warriors on Christmas, of course. You've got to have the two best teams in the league square off. The teams that have been playing each other the most in the NBA Finals, that level of familiarity there is starting to develop, and there's a real rivalry between those two teams. And a controversial end to that game, where LeBron James felt like he was fouled. Foul was not called. And Kevin Durant believes he did not foul LeBron James. Certainly not in a manner that would require. So like Kevin Durant was saying to the reporters after the game that, yeah, a lot of people believe that was a foul, but, you know, they play basketball all the time at the 24-hour fitness, which around here, we don't have a 24-hour fitness. But we got Sports Barn and we got Gold's Gym. Those have basketball courts. So, yeah, you play basketball there. You wouldn't call that as a foul. You'd get upset if a guy called that as a foul. And he's absolutely right, by the way. I play pickup basketball every week. Like if the guy called that foul on LeBron a foul, yeah, you'd be absolutely upset. You'd be apoplectic, really. But yeah, so yeah, I understand exactly where Durant is coming from. It was like, yeah, it was a foul, I guess you could call it, but you would have to be like the pettiest human being of all time to have called that. But I think that what got interesting to me was the discussion that they were having the broadcasters were having, Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson and Mike Breen were having, where they were talking about when they had to replay whether or not that was off Kevin Durant or off LeBron James. And they were saying, well, if you're going to replay whether or not it was out on somebody, why not replay whether or not that was a foul? And to me, I think that's a very slippery slope. I don't think that having more replay in sports is actually making this stuff better. And I think that there is a line that we have to walk, right? Like, because we want the referees to make the right calls. But we also want the game to progress faster. We also want stuff that is subjective to remain subjective, because a foul call is subjective. I mean, in the NBA, you could call a foul on every play. It's like holding in the NFL and college football. You could call holding on every play. You just don't. You call it when it's really obvious. I think with foul calls, they're like, I don't want referees to be able to review fouls.
No, neither would I, because like it slowed down the game like so much, because there could be, as you said, a foul on almost every play, and then they'd be like reviewing all of those. And I think basketball has a major edge over football in being a much faster paced sport, whereas like football, there's so much time between plays that they can pretty much have instant replay on every play comfortably. But like basketball, the dude scores and like they're playing and they're moving down the field, they're court in the other direction like 3 seconds later, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah, I also find it weird that Jeff Van Gundy, because I feel like he was playing like two sides of the fence on this one. Jeff Van Gundy was the one leading the charge for, well, if we're going to try and do this, let's review fouls. Also, when it was Jeff Van Gundy complaining earlier in the game that we had too many replays and that the replay was essentially a free timeout. Like, that's what would happen if you had to review fouls. Like, and it's so subjective. Like, fouls are not obvious all the time, right? There's no way. I don't want that at all. I really don't. You know, there are things I think if you want to get it right, you should just get it right. For instance, and maybe Sam Jordan, our the guy who comes on before me, though he didn't come on before me today. I took his hour today, but he will be back Sports Talk with Sam Jordan tomorrow from 6 to 7. But Sam's been a referee and Sam's been an umpire, and I'd like to get his take on this. But I personally think that if we have the ability to have machines do the job of an umpire, if a machine can tell you what's a strike and a ball accurately, and it doesn't take time away from the game, we should do that, right? But people want the subjectivity of an umpire's strike zone, even though that changes from umpire to umpire. Like that, that's a place where I don't think we need subjectivity. I think we could pretty much objectively tell what a strike zone is. So I don't necessarily want subjectivity there. But when it comes to a foul call, every time a person is touched, that should not be a foul, and you could legitimately call it that way. But if you did, the game would be unwatchable. So when is it okay? And by the way, we put referees in like the worst positions. We ask referees to get every call right, but also don't take over the game. And I don't know if you realize this, but when a referee is getting every call correct, that's what it looks like. It looks like he's taking over the game. We like it when the referees, quote unquote, let him play.
Yeah, that absolutely happens, I think, both in football and basketball, where it's like if you wanted accurate calls, then it'd be like the letter of the law, and it'd happen like a lot more, but people will get annoyed at like calls that like sometimes they get called, sometimes they don't get called, but that's why we have like people sort of, I guess, do the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law, which we would claim to want until we have to deal with it.
Right, like it's only okay when it works for your team. When it works against you, all of a sudden, you want the letter of the law when it's working for your team. You want the spirit of it when it's working for your team. When in reality, referees could call pass interference on just about every play in the NFL. We could call holding on just about every play in the NFL, and they don't do it so that we actually have a game that flows. And that's what you're paying referees to do that a robot can't do, right? Because a robot could just say, that's a hold, that's not a hold, that's a hold, and do it fairly accurately, right? Where you want the human decision-making is you want the human to say, that's not bad enough to stop this game.
Yeah.
So we're not going to stop this game. And to take control of it and not let things get out of hand. But if you do that, know that every call can't be accurate. It's not possible to ask a referee to do both. Those are two conflicting ideas. It's bizarre to me. I mean, but that's what we want. We want them to do both. I mean, you can't. Oh, it's crazy.
I don't think I've seen like because the NBA and NFL, they'll like tweet out like the final scores of games or whatever. I don't think I've gone into the comment sections of one of those without seeing someone being like, yeah, insert the name of the team that won, and the refs won the game. And it's just, what do you want?
Yeah, well, you're asking a lot from human beings. You're asking human beings to walk a line so fine. I don't know if it's possible to walk it. I don't. And I think there are sports where it's probably easier. Like, I think there's sports where definitely you could replace a lot of it with machines, and I think it might actually improve. I think baseball is one of those sports because there's so much in baseball that is subjective now that doesn't have to be, that doesn't need to be. Like, we have the technology to be able to find out if someone checked the swing. We have the technology to find out if someone threw a strike or threw a ball, and we don't use it. Right? We prefer the subjectivity there. So, that's a moot point. I'm not going to argue that too much. But I don't think that basketball and football are the kind of sports where you can eliminate the subjectivity. I think you want the subjectivity there so that you can have a game that flows cohesively and a game that is actually playable. Because if you ask for guys to not ever foul each other, you'd have an unwatchable sport. So, we're recapping exactly one NBA game because we passed that too long. But I think we had a fun conversation. Yeah, so thanks again for joining me today. You've been listening to all New Google Radio, NewRadio.com, here on 92.7 FM. Let's be on road. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay fun, and I'll see you in 24 hours. And we'll see you tomorrow.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least one person was injured. A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left two people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace and spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital, where she's expected to recover. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. Russell Stratton, Radio News, now.
We expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid-upper 20s. Now 40 to Wednesday. Look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Quite cold high. Still around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks. Locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixieland Fireworks. Just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Sworn Team 12 Chief Meteorology Pat Report.
Not making the money you deserve or need an exciting change. If you have radio sales experience, contact me about joining our terrific team here at 92.7 Nooga Radio. We are a hot get-up-and-go multimedia platform. Creative people, aggressive ideas. On our team, you'll have a wide-open marketplace of all the best accounts. I'm David. Call me at 401-0211. That's 401-0211. Great commissions, excellent prospects. 401-0211.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
Hi, this is Sonia with the Mountain Oaks Weddings Events and Tea Room in Louisville, located in the former James County Courthouse. Go back inside when you're planning your next event. Mountain Oaks is a full-service wedding venue and catering facility. No fuss, no mess, no cleanup when you schedule your next special event with Mountain Oaks. Leave the planning and the work to the experts, but take all the credit for your wonderful event. Call me, Sonia, at Mountain Oaks today at 423-238-9333 and leave the work to us.
423-238-9333. Or stop by our location on Church Street in Boudoir.
The perfect present for the perfect someone. No one can do it better than us at Goss Company Jewelers. If she's really important to you, if this gift is important to you, get on your feet and get in the store. I'll take care of you.
Goss Company Jewelers on Gun Barrel Road behind Chili's.
Hello Centers for Chattanooga offers non-medical solutions to your body's problems using a state-of-the-art technology called pulsed electromagnetic fields, PEMF for short. We help fuel the body's natural healing response. If you're tired of taking harmful addictive drugs that only dull your pain and cause awful side effects, the knowledgeable family staff at Pulse Centers can help you in that cycle.
Call to schedule a free whole body assessment at 423-771-7755. That's 423-771-7755.
Looking for an easy way to give back this holiday season? The Chattanooga Ronald McDonald House has a need. They offer a hospitality cart that gives out refreshments to tired parents at Children's Hospital at Erlanger. It's very low on snacks like peanut butter crackers and snack cakes. If you're able to donate, please bring all donations to the Ronald McDonald House at 200 Central Avenue, any day of the week between 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. For more info, visit rmhchattanooga.com.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM. Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4. News Talk Nooga Radio.
WBLTHD4 Ooltewah, 224AZ Chattanooga,
92.7 Digital FM 95.3 HD4 Chattanooga.
CBS News. And Allison Keys. Some people dream about snow, but it's becoming a nightmare for people in Erie, Pennsylvania. Today alone, 34 inches of it fell. Kim Howell lives there and is trying to make a path.
All I could do was laugh. You know, it's a little ridiculous, but I keep pecking away at it, and we'll get it cleared.
CBS's DelMarco Morgan is there.
For the most part, people are taking it in. They're saying, hey, this is what we're used to, even though they shattered a record here in Erie, Pennsylvania, 56 inches. And the crazy thing about it, the heavy snowfall is not done. They're expecting anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow before the week is over with.
At least the wintry weather didn't stop shoppers from reaching for their wallets. On Christmas Day alone, Americans spent $4 billion, mostly on gift card redemptions. Customer Growth Partners President Craig Johnson says today was also great for retailers.
It's too early to make numerical predictions, but this appears to be the best day after Christmas we've had in a long time.
He says the U.S. experienced its best overall sales growth this holiday shopping season since 2005. But what about gift returns?
Retail experts say only half of returns actually make their way back to the shelves. The others are often damaged or the boxes are open, so they end up being pre-sold to secondary retail stores, or they end up in a landfill.
It's WCBS TV's Hazel Sanchez. A Utah sheriff's deputy is being hailed as a hero after saving a drowning boy from a frozen pond. Washington County Sheriff Sergeant Aaron Thompson says he just stayed focused.
I couldn't feel anything. I didn't notice anything when I was doing it. I knew that time was of the essence. I had a very short window to get that child out of the water.
The 8-year-old boy fell through the ice while he was chasing his dog. He was in the cold water for about 30 minutes. The deputies are hopeful about his condition. The child is in the hospital. The average price of existing homes is up 6.2% over a year ago. S&P Index Committee Chair David Blitzer explains.
Among the leading cities were Seattle, Las Vegas, and San Diego. And across all 20 cities that we follow, home prices are up over the last 12 months.
California billionaire Harry Nicholas is taking his crusade for crime victims' rights nationwide. He donated millions to create a so-called Crime Victims' Bill of Rights called Marsy's Law, named after his sister, which was added to California's Constitution in 2008. It will appear on Oklahoma's ballot next year. Oysters may be a tasty snack, but they are also being used as storm protection measures. That's because they've learned the force in waves. This is CBS News.
Honesty, integrity, experience. From the people you know and trust. CBS News, original reporting.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when spraying cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Members of a famous rock band are working together again, but not on a stage show. Instead of a really fancy set of good headphones, you might just want to grab a pair of glasses.
The surviving members of Led Zeppelin are working together again, but it's not a musical collaboration. The band's website is reporting that Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and John Paul Jones are working together on an official illustrated book celebrating the band's 50 years. Bill Rakoff, CBS News.
Imagine finding out that your best friend is actually your brother. That just happened to two Hawaiian men who met in the 6th grade, played football at school together, and have been friends for 60 years. Alan Robinson was adopted, and Walter McFarland never knew his father. They discovered their relationship through a family history and DNA website.
Traffic, news, and information. Nooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
Chattanooga police say that a vehicle burst into flames after striking a power pole in Brainerd on Sunday night at Spring Creek Road. Details are limited, but at least one person was injured. A fire overnight last night on East 32nd Street left two people homeless. When firefighters arrived on scene, they saw heavy black smoke pouring through the roof. They say that the fire started in the fireplace, then spread to the ceiling, the roof, and the chimney. Nobody was hurt, and the family is being assisted by the Red Cross. 32-year-old Brittany Boyd was hit by a train near South Market Street, but she only suffered minor injuries. She was apparently walking near the train tracks when she was hit. She was taken to the hospital, where she's expected to recover. The TBI has issued a missing child alert for 5-year-old Devontae Maurice Clark. Police believe he may have been taken by his estranged mother. He could be anywhere. Russell Stroud in the radio news now.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at Noogaradio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook.